Hi Vedic Libras, this is the Ivy League astrologer with the June 2015 forecast. This is a bit of an experiment because I have more cards than I have ever had come out for Libras for June 2015. So let's just start reading it and see how that goes. So Libra, the first card out for you guys is the Ace of Cups in reverse. That looks to me like a disappointment of some kind, an emotional disappointment, but out of which important lessons can come, out of which healing can come. If you let it, like if you let it flow. It's almost like this failure is being served up to you on a silver platter so that you can really dive into this lesson. It's almost, yeah, it feels like if you let down your guard about, if you accept what your emotions truly are, and if you let down your guard about this disappointment or this failure, and recognize that it's something that is, that kind of cuts you to the bone. There's a lot of potential for healing, kind of, if you really let that all the way in. And for kind of reaching a next level within yourself emotionally and in terms of spiritual calm and peace. Because it feels like whatever this disappointment, frustration, failure is, it kind of gets you in a spot that's tender, you know? And so it's like by exploring that tender spot, and it's the history of that tender spot, because tender spots don't just appear out of nowhere. They grow up from past things. But sort of like if you kind of look at that, look at the trees in that forest, that there's a lot of potential for you to kind of pass on to the next level, where you won't have to relive the same kind of disappointment or the same kind of frustration. But I think that it will be require the disassembling of something important to you, whether that's an internal structure or an external circumstance. So I think it may require a bit of going back and forth before you kind of, even if you're kind of willing to like let yourself feel it all the way, it may require a bit of back and forth before you can kind of get there. Because it feels like you've staked a lot on this, whatever it is, that needs to kind of come apart for you to really be able to see clearly and feel in a more whole and complete way. Feel more whole within yourself as well. And I think if you're not so willing to kind of let this current disappointment echo back into other disappointments or echo back into some fundamental or foundational beliefs about yourself, then that may be kind of forced on you from the outside by things just kind of repeating, emotional tonalities kind of repeating themselves in a way that you feel backed up against a wall in a way, or just back in a very vulnerable place. It feels like it's sort of time for you to be or to start getting free of certain ideas that have been holding you back, that have been kind of holding you hostage for years. And for some people, it's a certain like a career path or something that's just not paying off, you know. And can't in some way. And for some people, it's a set of beliefs about themselves or the world that have been leading you down dead ends. But this month is the beginning of an enlightenment about those patterns. that have kind of led you into like union with the wrong person or the wrong thing. You know, led you to align yourself with the wrong idea. So I feel like there's a lot of potential for openness this month and for soul searching. And that would be quite productive. And it may need to be assisted soul searching. It's a good time to find a therapist also who is qualified to help you kind of swim back in those old waters without it overwhelming you. And you may resist that. A lot of Vedic Libras don't like therapy for some reason. Western Scorpios. But you may resist that because it may make you feel weak or broken or something. But it feels like it could be quite healthy and quite... And, you know, like you can kind of find the person who suits your style. It doesn't have to be overly therapy-ish if that's kind of what you fear. But yeah, it feels like it's a good time to get working on stuff. And if you don't get working on it, you may just end up kind of repeating the same cycles over again. I think you could make pretty rapid progress also if you get started this month or soon. And for those of you who already have been sort of doing the soul searching, it feels like you may be kind of putting the finishing touches on things in a way, you know, getting ready, like getting back to what is essentially pure and childlike about yourself, or like what is essentially your own. It feels like there is space for that work for some real breakthroughs there, some real kind of completion around those kinds of ideas. Yeah. And going back to like how sort of your inner child and like going back to like how your parents interacted with one another, what you heard and overheard as a child, just the atmosphere of the environment that you grew up in. And you know, it's not in the sense of like beating a dead horse or blaming people necessarily, but it's just about kind of understanding where some of your attitudes that may be so old that you can't really see them have come from, and healing that. There's a lot of potential for healing this month. And for either taking first steps or kind of finishing up. Like really believing in maybe some of the things that you've been saying for years, you know, or maybe some of you are like have confidence on the outside, but you don't quite feel it flowing. But I feel like there's a lot of potential this month to really inhabit that space and really embody it and feel a lot of gratitude as well. Maybe stop obsessing about an old situation that you could not control. For some people, this will have to do with a child. The old situation. Like accidental pregnancy or yeah, it's something that got out of control, and it feels like there is something here about pregnancy, about fertility, and about needing to like address those issues and needing to leave them behind, needing to fully address them so that they can be left behind. And I think there's a lot of freedom there as well, and kind of doing that work and releasing it. Yeah, I really feel like there's a new start for a lot of Libras this month. You can really kind of rise up a level internally, spiritually. A lot of it has to do with rest, and a lot of it has to do with acceptance. And I do feel that there's a lot of energy around kind of mining your childhood as well, or just plumbing the relationship between you and your mother, plumbing the relationship between you and your first home, you know, and how you learn to love in that home, and what you want to accept of that, what you want to treasure from that, and what you would like to change so that your relationships don't go down the same path. And so that you will be free to kind of proceed in a more enlightened manner. And have faith that you can do so. And that it's kind of safe to live in the present in a way. It's like you have to go back to the past in order to affirm your sufficiency in the present, your agency, I think, in the present. Yeah, I feel like this is a protected process also of you sort of figuring out where you need healing, where you need cleansing. And I feel like it's going to proceed at its own time and lead you. Lead you forward eventually. Propel you forward. Yeah, for some people I'm seeing a long distance relationship, or this could also be a relationship that hasn't actualized yet, a relationship that is sort of forming on two sides and getting closer. But it feels like the key to getting that to happen is in the past, is in unlocking your treasure chest of childhood emotions. It's kind of like for you to go back to the way that you were nurtured, and for the other person to go back to the way that they were nurtured, and sort of call those things into being so they can be looked at and neutralized. So I feel that there can be a really positive and strong coming together of two different energies that I think begins this month. To me, this feels like a process that is continuing out over time, but I feel like the seeds for it are sown this month. And that you will, and if you do take that time for rest and for reflection, you will be sort of drawn forward intuitively into your next move. And even still, you'll still have a choice, you know. I mean, you always have choice, but it feels like there's sort of like a getting to the root of things for you and for another person that is going to bring on a union that is a very positive and powerful union. It's coming up as the Two of Cups, the soulmate card. So this could be a place, this could be a protected place for you. It could be an actual union of two people that are karmically connected. Or it could, and for some people I think it can also just be indicating like your next level of consciousness that's going to kind of change your perception of the world, heal your perception, and move you forward that next step. But it feels like there are things that need to be left behind in order to fully embark on this path. So this is a lot about purification, and it's kind of about that for a lot of people this month. But it feels like this month is a really important time to focus on purification, focus on intuition, focus on owning like all of your stuff and releasing what needs to be released. I think if you don't do that work, you can find yourself sort of like out in the cold and feeling like you missed an opportunity. But my stronger sense is, I do feel like that is the case, but I might have a strong sense that you're building a future foundation, but it's a spiritual foundation this month. So it's really important to like get to the root of all matters in a way. Get to the emotional roots of things in order to build the foundation upon which your home is going to be made eventually. And it feels like that requires solitary time this month in order to make yourself ready for a future relationship or union of another kind. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing for June, Libra. I hope that's helpful, and please do get in touch if you'd like a personal reading. My link for scheduling is down below, and all the times there are Pacific time, so please do Google and figure out the translation for your time zone. And my email is ivyleagueastrologer@gmail.com. And yeah, thank you again for watching. I appreciate it. Bye. Thanks.